white shirt too. Right. So you've got a big one, haven't you,
Uh,
today? You've revealed to me.
well, I think you think it's a decent topic, yeah. So, um, um, you still there?
No, I cut out a bit. You're
All
back
right, okay,
now.
right.
You're back now, yeah.
So, what's more expensive, investing some time and money into your health or losing your quality of life for 10 years of your later life?
Well, that's a. Do you know what that is, mate? That is a good philosophical question.
Hmm.
That is a
I
very.
mean, it's not even necessarily, you know, 10 years of your later life. You could, I mean, I see people who are almost in decline in their 30s, you probably see
Mm.
it as well. Um,
Oh, I mean, 100%. Like, I've seen people in their like early 20s,
mm.
like that just can't, get up out of a chair properly. Or, like honestly, I'm not lying.
No, I
Like
think it's
people
actually
that,
getting younger and younger. I mean, you're probably even seeing there's some teenagers, who are struggling with obesity and probably lack of exercise that are starting to show those sorts of signs.
yeah, yeah. Well, look, let's open this one out with, a discussion I had, not naming any names or anything like that. And fair play to the guy, he got on a call with me, which might have been a huge step in of itself,
Mm.
a couple of months back or wherever it might be. And we got chatting, and he said, yeah, this is something I really want to do. I'm really happy that, we got on the call, more an opportunity, and all this positive stuff.
Mm.
Long story short, he neglected his body for a large part of his life and came to a realization that he needed to do something about that. And that's why we ended up on the call. And then a few days later, when I followed up with him, set him up, everything else, I had the DM, which you've had many times over. And I think that's reality of being a coach, which was essentially a paragraph saying, you know, I, I don't think I can start this, because I just don't have the time, right? Or something like that. And then I said, I kind of challenged him a little bit because I think that's your role as a coach, right? Like your role as a coach is to push back sometimes, and
Mm.
not like for the sake of trying to help the guy. And I said, well, you said to me on the call that you're already training 3 days a week, so you have obviously got the time. And then he said, I just no, I don't want to do it, kind of thing.
Yeah, it
And
wasn't.
that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. Obviously, but I just left that situation feeling like I can't help but feel super frustrated, and I'd be lying to people listening to this,
Mm.
saying that if it doesn't affect me, it does affect me because we've got a skill set that can really really help people, like genuinely. And I'm not just saying that like from an egotistical perspective. Like we really care about this, and it is an opportunity. Like if you work for a coach like me or you, we're very good at what we do. I'm
Mm.
saying we got all the answers, but we're certainly very very good at what we do.
Mhm.
You know, um, and we're specialists. And I just thought, man, I can see this guy's future only if he'd commit, and only if he'd back himself and put all those doubts to one side. But he didn't. And now, a couple months later, maybe he has hired a coach or something. I hope he has. But the reality is, he probably hasn't.
Mm.
And it's a hard pill to swallow, mate. And I know you struggle with that too.
Oh, it is, yeah. Well, that's a prime example there, isn't it? And you can obviously encourage someone, lay it all out for them of the benefits to it all, but you know, you can't force someone at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah, you can't. You can't. Let me read some stats because you mentioned a post that I put up
Yeah.
yesterday, and I think it's a really good post because I think these stats are really going to hit home with people.
Hmm.
So the post was called "Shocking Stats That'll Make You Pick Up a Barbell." So 55% of frail adults struggle to get out of a chair. So that's not running a marathon. That's not deadlifting 200 kilos. That is literally just standing up with
Mm.
your own body weight, right? So 55% of frail adults. Nearly 1 in 10 frail older adults can't get on or off the toilet unassisted. 1 in 10, right? 28% of adults worldwide are physically inactive. That's a large chunk of the population.
Yeah.
28%. By 85, nearly 1 in 2 people are frail. Rapid sarcopenia, which is muscle loss, affects up to 50% of people over 80. Those are just a few of the statistics I shared. And, I see it over and over and over again where we live in a culture, especially in the West, I think,
Mm.
where we constantly prioritize our work, right? And
Yeah.
obviously we all have to an extent, we have to pay our bills, right? I work hard, I work a lot of hours every week. But I also prioritize my physical well-being, and I don't let it come at the cost of that. And I
Mm.
think that a lot of people these days, they just, for every reason, they drift away. We start playing sport when we're very young. We start doing like football, rugby, or whatever it might be, especially in the UK. Those are the two sports, or cricket, wherever we lean toward here in the UK. Um, and then, when you become older and you get into your 20s, people drop off and they
Yeah.
stop moving their bodies and they start neglecting it. And then they find a job or they get into a relationship. And before they know it, they haven't done anything with their bodies, no physical exertion in the last 10 years. And that happens. We run into those people a lot, and there's a cost to that, isn't there?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, what would you say, like because that's my experience where, I run into two types of people. Some people that are well up for it, want to get involved, they understand the value in that. And then there's a second type of person that is a bit lost, you know. I don't know, what's your experience with it, mate?
No,
In
I've
terms
had it. Yeah, in both respects. Some people buy all in, um, and they commit to it, and then they obviously get the results and you know feel the all the positive effects that come from it. My thing is with it now is like with a lot of things in like today's world we live in is when we buy something, whether that's buying a service, buying a product. Like we look on that, like you buy something on Amazon now, and I'm guilty of it as well. If I buy something on Amazon, I look and it's like if it's not being delivered tomorrow, I'm just like, what? Like, why is it not coming tomorrow? I'm kind of frustrated by that, and I think that's almost the way I think some people probably look at looking after their health and their fitness and everything because it's not, like with that you don't looking after your health and fitness, you don't whether you're spending your money on coaching or on a gym membership or whatever, you don't do it for a week and notice like tangible benefit
Mm.
and results. It's like investing your money. You don't invest your money and expect to see like thousands in your bank just a month later. But over the long term, like your investment is really going to pay off. And I think that's the same with like, yeah, looking after your health and fitness. With
and
some people.
and and we do it for the process, don't we, too? And I
Yeah.
think that's the big difference is that a lot of people, they want an outcome,
Mm.
whereas we want a process. And that's the difference, like to us, it's a way of life and it's a way of living. And that is exactly what I think is about flipping that mindset towards, look, I know obviously you want an outcome. We all do this for a reason. We all have a direction in which we want to head. But
Mm.
at the end of the day, we do this to have a process to be that guy or girl who lives that lifestyle,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah, absolutely.
I think a lot of people get caught up in, like you put it, the Amazon, analogy. They want to click a button and just all of a sudden, be fit, be healthy, and it doesn't work that way. It's like if you spent years neglecting your body, you now have to reinvest that same amount of time getting your health back, and it's worth it because
Yeah.
what's the alternative? So let's talk a little bit about that alternative then, because like, what are some of the effects, would you say, of like neglecting your body over the years and, not say if you are that person, right? Played sport when they were younger and just thought, do you know what? My
Mm.
career and making money now is the most important thing. And that's number one. What's
Yeah.
the cost of that, would you say?
Well, obviously, I would say the greatest risks are again this is you're pairing it all up with like with activity, so like training, exercise, physical exercise, nutrition, lifestyle, the whole shebang really, and then the effects that can have on your overall health. So I would say number one would be potential like poor body composition. When I say poor body composition, I'm meaning like verging on the realms of like being overweight to the point it's having a negative impact on your health. So
Mm.
potentially pre-diabetic, greater risk factor for heart disease. Um, Even cancers are at greater risk if you're carrying excess weight. When I say that excess body fat, I'm talking to like extreme levels. But all these things are at greater risk if you are inactive and not being mindful of your nutrition. Not only that, but then things like which are common as people get to older age, and even not even older age, like people in their 40s, but like joint replacements. Like how
Mm.
many people do you know they get into their sort of like their 40s and it's like, oh yeah, I can't do this anymore because my knees hurt. And so their physical activity is then limited because they've got knee pain or something like that. And that's just down to, yeah, some people are just unlucky, but also a lack of like the right training and everything to look after your joints.
Yeah, 100%. I think the independence one is massive, isn't it? What you're
Mm,
alluding to there, like, touch wood, I haven't got to worry about when I'm older, relying on other people.
mm,
And it is really quite a selfish thing not looking after yourself because at one point someone's going to have to look after you. And look, I understand 100%. Look, again, we maybe it's important to give this perspective too. We understand that this is our job and it's what we prioritize. This is the center point of our life. Um, I think everybody should prioritize their health, absolutely. But other people do other priorities with like kids and work
yeah,
and all
absolutely.
other
There's no
stuff.
doubt about that.
Yeah, so that's what we're not denying any of that, but in this conversation at all, and we understand that, right? But what we're saying is that you've just got to, like, at some point, you have to take responsibility for your own health,
Mm,
and I know it comes across quite blunt, but as I always ask this question, what is the alternative for you? It is the alternative that when you're in your 80s, your son and daughter has to stay with you because you can't get off the toilet by yourself.
mm.
And look, that happens a lot. I think I said 1 in 10 there, you
Yeah.
know. Um, Now that's why I train. There's many reasons I train, many reasons. Purpose, meaning, progress. It gives me a path. It's part of my identity. But the big reason is that one day if I ever have kids, I want to be the strongest dad at the park.
Mm,
You know, so that I am capable, I am resilient you know um, and the other option is that you're not that person,
mm.
and you know illness comes about for all of us or whatever it might be. You're much more resilient to that. you know um there's mental benefits of training.
Yeah, big one. Yeah,
Personally,
definitely.
like I if I don't train me, I don't know about you, but if I'm not training properly or feel like I'm progressing, I just don't feel my best self.
Oh
Like,
God, yeah. I mean, yeah,
personally,
absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
yeah,
Well, injuries are like if whenever I've had a bad injury from football, off the football pitch or something, it's almost like for my mental health, it feels almost catastrophic. No?
yeah, yeah. Well, that's it. Yeah, I get on a lot of these calls, and people, it all comes back to the same thing. I couldn't put a number on how many of these calls have jumped on, but when I ask people why they're on the call,
Mm,
it's mainly because they either just want help to get to that next level, and they already do this, or it is because they haven't prioritized themselves for years, and they're wondering why they feel so like crap about themselves. And I do think that if you're not progressing in some sort of physical aspect in your life, whether you pay that bill now or you pay that bill in 20 or 30 years time, you have got to pay that bill, but
yeah,
it's
yeah.
up to you how you pay.
Mm,
You can invest now and pay a
yeah.
coach or pay for a membership or whatever it might be. um
Or you can
or,
invest in healthcare later on and everything you need to try and get your health back, which is
yeah,
a lot
yeah,
harder.
absolutely. There's a cost to it. There's a cost
Mm.
to all of it.
And the other
um
thing, oh, go on.
yeah. No, what were you going to say?
No, the other thing with all this is that, you hear people now saying like, oh, I can't get an appointment at the doctors and waiting times with the NHS. Well, obviously at some stage we all need the NHS, when things happen to us. But the best preventive method for that is to look after yourself so that, touch wood, you don't need to rely on the healthcare system, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's it, isn't it? It's like your physical health, quite literally, is everything, isn't
Mm,
it? I personally, for me, the way that I look at it is that your physical and personal, so your time with your family and everything else, and your physical health are the most important things, and your job sits right behind that. And
mm,
it is important what you do and the meaning that you have in your life through what you do for 70% of your life with your work. Of course, there is. But at the end of the day, like without your health, you have nothing at all.
no, no, yeah.
And, I say, I've used this analogy before with some of my clients. It's like a kitchen stool that has three legs, and each leg represents personal, professional, and physical. Now, the idea is that you want to keep all of those legs on the floor. Well, if you take one leg away, that
Mm,
stool's now going to fall over. And there's a lot of stools falling over,
yeah, 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 yeah.
like out there. And it's tough. It's really tough.
Mm,
Like, I'm not saying I have all the answers, but what I do make sure is that every week, I say, I hope you get yours
mm,
today or something. I say that every week, and that's
yeah.
what I mean. Like, get yours. Like, getting
Mm,
it. People talk about money and job and their jobs and all of this sort of stuff. But how many people talk about, oh yeah, I got to the gym this week, or I went for a run, or whatever it might be, what it means to you. Not
no,
many
it's more
people
of,
today.
yeah, people see it more of as a priority sometimes. Not everyone, not some people do see it more of a priority to look after the car and keep the car service running well and upgrading the car every 2 years than they do their own body and health.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's tune this then into a bit more, I suppose, constructive in terms of like how can you? I don't think you can change that mindset. I like there's nothing me or you could say.
Oh no, you can't. No, no, you can preach all you want and
Yeah,
shoot out stats and stuff. It doesn't matter, does it? It's like, you know, everyone knows um, that excess alcohol is bad for them. Everyone knows that smoking is bad for them. It doesn't stop people, you know.
mm,
Everyone's aware. You've just got to, I guess, have to make your own decision on it at some point, don't you?
yeah, yeah. Well, what would you say? Say if like um someone's listened to this and they're actually like, yeah, I do want to get into the gym and start training more, and it's come
Mm.
from them rather than us.
Yeah.
Like, what would your advice be to that person? Like, where should they start? Like, how, if they are going to join a gym, what should they prioritize?
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously, no bias in this because obviously we're both coaches, but I would like if your finances allow, we're not getting into what people can afford because if they're spending money on Netflix or takeaways. If someone has the financial resources to hire a coach, then um, do your due diligence, find a good coach who can help you. And I think that is probably setting yourself up in the best way because then they can then advise you and put a plan together to help you achieve your goals. Because like not everyone starts training with the same goal. Some people do just want to improve their health. Some people are doing it for all different reasons. So first thing would be to ideally hire a coach and then go from there. Look at the time that you can commit to training each week and then divide that, or even not even say training. Let's say how much time you can commit each week to looking after your health,
Mm,
because like food comes into that as well. So
mm,
like the World Health Organization, their guidelines are 150 minutes of like low intensity exercise, or I believe is it 70 or 90 minutes of vigorous exercise a week. So you can divide that up however you want. Um, but let's say you've got 3 hours, you could go, all right, I'm gonna two 45-minute training sessions in the gym, and I'm going to go and do two levels or two like play sport or do something that physically exerts me in terms of like getting your heart rate up. And I'm going to commit 40 minutes each week to getting to the supermarket where I can stock my fridge with good food,
mm, mm,
because that's another thing that derails a lot of people is, oh, well, I don't have time to get to go and buy food and to cook and everything, so I end up buying convenience crap food. And like
mm,
we also know that like nowadays, like you can make a good choice pretty much anywhere. I mean, I'm not sure about Greg's, but even like McDonald's now, you can go and make a good nutritious choice if you want to. There are better options. But yeah, so that's probably how I would look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what you've said there about time management is key. And
Mm.
knowing what you can and can't do and setting your expectations. And yeah, hiring a coach. I mean, you know, like I think that's essential, right? Like if it was anything else, if you wanted to get good at painting,
Yeah.
then you would get tuition on that. You wouldn't just try and do it yourself and see what you could knock up.
Yeah, yeah.
You'd get help. Or you could try it that way. And maybe it would take you the next 10 years before you'd actually get anywhere. And very much the same applies to this. You know, the difference is though, is that you are using weights,
Mm.
and weights, if lifted incorrectly, are dangerous. So you have to make sure that you're doing it correctly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that there's that, and then also making sure that you're prioritizing your time properly. Like that's one of the first videos that anybody that decides to join with me gets. So there's a video on there saying managing your time properly, and I think a lot of people blame a lack of time more so than managing their time.
Mm.
And I may get a little bit of flack for this, but that's fine. These are my thoughts. I'm just being honest. Again, people do have priorities. Absolutely. I'm not denying that. I center my life so that I can go and train, right?
Mm.
I understand that. I didn't live in a goldfish bowl, right? Of like, just everybody lives like me. I understand people have
Yeah.
kids,
Yeah.
people have way more responsibilities than me. So let me just get out of the way. But in my experience and being in this industry since I was 17, I have observed over the years that a lot of people are very, very poor at managing their time. And I can tell you that because when I ask the question, do you have a schedule?
Mm.
Right? Um, most of the time, it's no.
Yeah.
Right? Now, they have a schedule for their job, but when it comes to their personal and physical time, there's no schedule. So that is the first place you need to look
Mm.
because with me, I'm busy with my business. We're working probably about 70 hours a week, with my business. So I have to plan in my time and when I'm going to train.
Yeah.
And the same goes for everybody else. Like if you're very busy, is not to say you can't make it work. You can make it work, but you just have to be very intentional of when you train. So it's like booking in a doctor's appointment, right? You wouldn't miss your doctor's appointment, so book it in like you would a doctor's appointment in your training week,
Yeah, I've
right?
told people this as well before, like with online coaching. So I just, yeah, I'm struggling to find the time, and I'll say the same thing. Literally schedule it in like you would your work calls or work commitments or something with your family. Just look at the time you can allocate, and then plug them in there into your week.
Right. And I've even had, people then say to me, and this is fair completely, I got a baby, I'm like maybe a single mum, wherever it might be. I've got a baby, I'm trying to raise, I can't get to the gym. They just don't have that facility. And of
Mm.
course, that's a different situation. And I would say, well, is there anything else that you can do? Can you maybe go to the park or walk or something? It doesn't always have to be, although of course, I do recommend it eventually. It doesn't have to be barbell training. It could be whatever you want it to be, right?
Yeah, you can
If
get a
it's,
lot. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
well, as long as it's a step forward.
Yeah, you can get a lot done with just your like with obviously I train a lot of calisthenics, but you can get a lot done with just your body weight, even if you're a beginner.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, look,
yeah.
like there were many people during lockdown who were able to maintain a good level of health, fitness, and everything, training like in their like bedrooms or whatever. If you're stuck in an apartment in London and you got some resistance bands or just doing whatever. Like you talked about to begin with, um, how you don't want to be, in your 80s struggling to get up off the chair. Like even if you do 10 body weight squats for 3 sets, like 3 times a week, that is, a benefit for your health in the long term if you're going from zero exercise. I can't hear you.
hell?
Yeah, you went off then.
Uh, hang on a sec. I'm back.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Now I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, it
All
was
right.
my phone. My phone randomly, mate, just connected as the
So you're
microphone.
all right.
Am I clear again now?
Yeah, yeah, it's fine now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm clear. Yeah, so what you were saying then about the body weight exercise is perfect because
Mm.
it's hard. It for sure. What we're saying is that it is going to be harder for some people, right? We're not denying that. I think we'd be naive arseholes, if we thought that like everybody can prioritize it as much as
Oh,
us.
yeah, everyone's got 4 or 5 hours a week to train, and everyone's
Right.
got the gym, like, within like a 20-minute commute for them, and blah blah blah. And it's yeah, it's just
Yeah.
not the case, is it? But that
No.
doesn't, there can be obstacles there. But that doesn't mean then that your health has to be completely unachievable.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. And that's a very important message to drive home with people because I do think that a lot of people just think, do you know what? It's hard, so screw it. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna throw the baby out with the bathwater and completely forget about my physical health.
Mm.
And that isn't okay. And podcasts and messages like this are important to hear. To say, look, it comes with a bit of responsibility. Like if you want to make it work, you can make it work, even if the odds aren't in your favor.
Mm.
And that's a very, very important message to take away from this. Um, yeah, I think that's a really quite a profound podcast today, mate, and hopefully it's resonated with people. Any other stuff you'd want to add that you think we've missed in terms of
Um,
like nutrition or stuff like that, like easy wins
I
rounds?
mean, obviously, then with the nutrition side, there's like because I've heard. I remember someone telling me years ago, "Oh, well, I can't afford to eat steak every day." I was like, "Yeah, but you don't need to be eating a fillet steak or whatever every day to be eating nutritiously. You
Right,
don't
right.
like your a nutritious meal doesn't need to be tender stem broccoli, fillet steak, and baby potatoes laid up on a
Mm,
plate to you. So like you learn about nutrition or get someone who can educate you and help you with your nutrition, and they can probably provide you with a shopping list that will meet your budget. So if you
yeah,
are like that's where again we're talking about investing in coaching. That's where if you invest in a good coach, they can probably help. Well, they should, if they're good, they should be able to. If you go, all right, this is my budget for the week because I've got children to support or whatever else and outgoings. This is how much I have to live on. Like, how can I follow a nutritious diet, but make my money last a week shop for me. And it's just like, you can buy cans of tuna, you can buy lots of food.
anything that is canned,
Mm,
you look at like tuna, and you can bulk up on the calories on that too, because you can add like mayo to that, like light mayo, wherever it might be.
yeah.
You can, and there's stuff that you can add in if you're looking for more of a calorie dense option. But tuna's such a cheap protein, isn't it?
Yeah, it's excellent.
You
But not
know.
even that. It's sort of like that's if you're more on the budget end. But then if you're someone who, you have a good source of income, but time is your biggest obstacle, then there are plenty of meal prep services now, especially if you're maybe not like living in a rural area, but if you're more city based, there are plenty. And I say that there are, you can have them all delivered now. I know people who've done that. I can't remember what they're called, is off the top of my head, Fitter Food, whatever. I'm not sure. But yeah, so if you have the financial resources and time is your obstacle, then get your food meal prepped and delivered to you every week. And that's again a step in the right direction for your health.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. That's a couple of good points there to finish up on.
Mm.
But yeah, I think guys, like, look, biggest things getting started, and there's again, me and you, I think, gave up on convincing people a very long time ago.
Yeah.
We've talked about that like before, and yeah, I'm just not in that business of convincing people anymore. I don't do it because it's got to come from the person, and hopefully it's hit home anyway today. But mate, do you want to see us out on
Yep.
that?
Guys, if you've enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating and review and subscribe on Spotify and iTunes, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Good man.